Yeah.
And this week on the Weekly Check-In.
So this case is a super tragic case. Is sad all around. Like I was telling Kai, I said this case is kind of like a social experiment of everything wrong with our system, from the foster care system all the way to policing and community. Like it's so many things that you could talk about that were wrong before we even got to bringing the police in, like from foster care to adults going trying to fight some kids, to her running out, being in such a rage that she couldn't control her emotions to the point where she didn't have the wherewithal to put a knife down in front of the cops, to a cop getting out and shooting in less than 30 seconds, and 22 seconds. So there were so many things, but and so the conversations that I've been having have been really interesting, because one of the things that I want to get into, because this is a case that has just a little bit more nuance than some of the other cases, like where George Floyd, I know people felt like it's cut and dry because we watched him, lean on his neck for 9 minutes. This case, to me, and I said I want to look at this case in particular because not only because I don't care about that she had a knife. I think the thing that changed it was she was in mid stab of someone else when she was shot. And I think that's something that you have to look at, because I know people saying like, well, we've seen all these other cases where they de-escalate. And I said, but the one-to-one comparison, and to me, this is the part that's important. The one-to-one comparison is that cop is actually on the scene there in the middle of her about to stab somebody else. And I think it's very important to state that. Now, again, we have to talk about why he shot. That's a bigger overarching issue about how they're trained. Like, we know that officers are trained to not stop a threat, not calm a threat. They're trained to neutralize the threat. And so, like, when people are using like the comparison to Kyle Rittenhouse, I'm like, okay, let's take the comparison to Kyle Rittenhouse. We know the white kid got to move around the way he did and do the things he did because he was white. But I can't make a one-to-one comparison because the cops weren't there at the moment he shot somebody and let him shoot somebody. So that's why I'm saying, like, I don't know what would happen if he would have let her stab the other girl, because I don't know what the outcome of that is. You know what I mean? So that's why I said it's tragic. It's trash all around. Like the whole shit is just a trash situation all around. But this one, I was like, it's tough. It's really, really tough.
And Dame, I get the in the action piece, right? I get that, and I appreciate that. But how many times in our communities have police waited to show up just so they can let the other person shoot or stab someone, and so they're not in danger and show up afterwards? How many times in our own communities? I'm from Oakland, California. We have called the police while shooting was happening, and we wait 15 minutes later, and then the cops show up so that they don't have to be then. They don't have to put their lives in danger. So I don't disagree with the idea of the shock of pulling up to the scene while a weapon is being wielded. However, that weapon is a knife. You have a gun. You have been trained. We as taxpayers have paid you money for a certain level of training for you to be able to deal in these types of situations. Let's say, for argument's sake, let's go on with the fact of she does stab her. Okay. But if she stabs her, she's the angle in which she's going to stab her at, she's not going to kill the girl from the angle that she's going to stab her. She doesn't have to die. And now we just have an assault case and everybody gets to live to tell the story. That's not what we got. We got an officer who was nervous when he shows up at the scene because he's not in any capability calm enough to make any level of decisions. You have assessed the scene once. You've assessed the situation when you drove up and just got to shooting. That's number one. Number two, let's also deal with the fact of, yes, you decided to shoot her center mass, but 4 shots? What was 4 shots needed? There was no reason to have 4 shots. 1 shot was good enough. If your chief concern was the safety of the other person, 1 shot was all that was necessary. Now, the 1 shot still may have killed her, But the 4 shots is where you showed to me to be then excessive. And then for you have the audacity after to scream out Blue Lives Matter after you shoot her.
Yeah, that's the shit.
You get to
That was some gang. That was straight gang banging. That was
get to scream out. I mean, you just called your set. What you just told me was this is a gang fight, and you claiming your set. That's what you just told me from the hood that I'm from, the places that I'm from. That's what you just did. So to me, you lose all credibility about your ability or your idea of protecting the community or protecting this other life when you get to hollering Blue Lives Matter. The young lady was not coming after you. The knife was not then turned towards you as a police officer.
Well, just to be clear, the cop who shot her is not the one who said that.
No. I understand that. No.
Just to be clear.
But I'm saying that the cop that said that was on the scene.
Of course.
Let's be very clear. You're exactly right. The cop that said that was not the cop that shot. However, they were on the scene. You were on the scene.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
What you're basically saying is my set ran up, we won, and we claim it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what the message is to me. I'm from the hood. You pull up with that. You get to shooting in a shootout and name off your set. It's what it is.
Yeah.
Period. So for me, I don't disagree. It's a tragic situation all the way around.
Because you got a grown man kicking a lady in the head in the middle and like literally in the midst of all this. And so what I did was I watched, because I try not to watch these videos, I really do, but I watched the video in full speed, then I watched it in slow motion. Mm-hmm. And of course we get the luxury of watching the slow-mo, but watching it slow-mo and watching it unfold, I'm like, okay, so this whole scene, so many things wrong before the cop even pulls his gun. You got the girl who called the police running out with a knife while a cop is there, about to stab somebody. A young man kicks another young lady in the head. And while this is going on, you got a bunch of adults around filming with their phones, and nobody's trying to stop none of this. And that's why I asked the question, like, if we know that the police are trained to come shoot center mass, specifically black people, like, let's be clear, like, if we know they are trained a certain way to deal with us and they hold a certain aggression when it comes to these types of calls for us anyway, like there's a certain aggression that resulted in her death, that resulted in Dante's death, there's a certain aggression that they hold coming into these calls.
Coming into the call.
Mm-hmm. What should we have done, and what do we have to do as a community to stop it? Because when I was coming up, if that happened, OG's coming out saying, ain't gonna be no jumping. Y'all want a fair one of y'all come, she'll come out, and y'all gonna get that fair one, and y'all gonna go home. Mm-hmm. Nobody did that. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean. Like almost like you were saying about the OGs controlling the exit point. There was no OGs on the scene who did the things you were supposed to do that could have squashed all of that, and everybody could have lived. Everybody would have been okay, and we wouldn't have had to call the police. Because somebody came to my house, we didn't call the police. My pops came out, was like, if he want a fair one, tell him come up, and it's just gonna be the two. But y'all ain't jumping nobody,
right?
You know what I mean? And because look, we know hood politics, and we grew up in the hood. We know who put hood politics how going, but that hood politics has not been executed the same way, and that's how you end up getting a situation like that where a fight between girls in the hood goes to cops coming and killing one of those girls, right? Because so many things, like I said, there were so many pieces to that I was like, this could have been avoided so many times before it got to the cop being able to even be in a position to take that young girl out.
And to me, that's the other piece of the story, right? That to me is where our accountability comes in. But it also behooves me, Dame, that the main people on social media that's having a lot to say about defending this white officer are black men, are the same black men who are saying nothing about the fact that there should have been some OGs, some old black men present to diffuse the situation. So the same way black men are on social media, well, she had a knife and she was in the act and she talking all of this, but we are not placing any level of responsibility on themselves not de-escalating the situation. I understand white supremacy has made it so that you have lost your primary voice in the family structure. I understand that the white supremacist structure has told you that you are less than and you do not qualify and you are not worthy, but you're still worthy to us. And you still worthy to us because we wake up and we protect y'all. We pray for y'all. We go to bat for y'all. We'll go protest for y'all. You still worthy to us. So for me, the meat of the matter is that when will we shake this understanding that our love together, that Dame, your love for me platonically, that Kaia's love for me, that our love back to one another is actually the weapon. And
Absolutely.
if we use that to then insulate ourselves and protect ourselves, a lot of this stuff, it becomes impossible to happen. We are not in 1920 where they get to roll up and put you on a tree. We are not in that same situation.
But look, Sherice, so to your point, and this is why I want to have that like after I made my initial post about like, look, unfortunately, it looks like the cop is not going to be charged for this. I'm like, just based on law.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Look, after I had that conversation, that's why I didn't have the conversation about us and our accountability afterwards. But I think the issue to me is like how you said, it always somehow when it went to stop Asian hate, Jussie Smollett, Jewish people, anti-Semitism, somehow it always comes back to black men and black women fighting.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so no matter who the perpetrator is, somehow it becomes the beef between us. And that's the thing that I was like, so I saw a friend of mine had posted like, you know, from Corinne Gaines to now Ma'Khia Bryant, we see how y'all black men, you know, made excuses, and you know, and I was like, wait, hold up. I said, to make that point and then forget all the support that black men gave to Breonna Taylor, Sandra Bland, Tatiana Jefferson, just to make this point is disingenuous and divisive. And I don't think we should do it like that.
We shouldn't do it like that.
You know what I'm saying? Like we shouldn't do it like that. I said, because though people may disagree about this particular case, and I honestly, this is one of the first times I can understand and see anybody not agreeing on this case. I said, that does not negate all the goodwill and work that, you know, has been put in from black men to black women and trying to like black men were consciously trying to support Breonna, Tatiana, and Sandra Bland because we have been hearing from black women, y'all don't support us the same way in these police brutality cases. So we were constantly, so then it's like to just take Corinne Gaines and Ma'Khia Bryant to make the point and then leave out all the other work that we've been doing in between. I think that's whack. And I hate that that's where the narrative is going to where it's like, oh, y'all saying these things about Ma'Khia because of misogyny. Like some may be. But then there's the other half, like a friend of mine was saying, like, listen, as much as I don't want that young girl to die, if it was my daughter who was about to get stabbed, I would want somebody to stop my daughter from being stabbed. So, and that's why I say this case has so many overarching themes to it.
Yeah, but Dave, you would want your daughter stop from being stabbed. But let's talk about the fact that there is a history of this girl calling this is not just one incident. This is a prolonged situation.
Well, that's why I said it's a system.
When we talk about women, right? Once we get to the act of violence, usually when it comes to women, there's been a trail of
right.
It's not just women, you know, I'm a little different, right? That's why I had to get Jesus to kind of get over my skin. Talking too much, nothing. Just pull out the knife from the beginning. We don't gotta go a whole bunch of back and forth with me. One assault is, one verbal assault is good enough for me, right? That's why I had to chill out. But I'm telling you that most of the time with young women, there's been a trail of conflict. There's been a trail of this young woman not being heard. So my thing is to the father that says, well, if my daughter was getting stabbed, I would want her to be stopped. Well, what has your daughter been terrorizing this other girl all this time doing?
Absolutely.
The time that was spent terrorizing this girl, that is why so 16-year-old girl comes out just with a knife to just start slashing. There has been build up to that point.
Well, that's why I said it's like a social experiment of so many things wrong.
Exactly.
Right. So you know what I mean? Like it's like.
So what if the girl gets stabbed? And I know that sounds horrible to say, but so what if she gets stabbed? Because let's not try to pretend like the police officer or that police are really trying to protect Black lives. They're not trying to protect Black lives. So let's not even get into this false equivalency of, well, if my daughter was getting stabbed, if your daughter was getting stabbed, let's talk about the situation that got your daughter in a situation to be stabbed by another Black girl her age. We're not talking about being stabbed by a white male.
But from what I understand, it wasn't even a teenage girl that was getting stabbed.
Grown,
it was 30. It was like a 29, 30-year-old.
Like grown women over there trying
to fight
their girl.
And they were actually apparently they were former foster care kids in that house. And they would visit their former foster mother. And so this had happened before. When they come, they try to regulate the foster kids that are there.
Oh, wow.
So there had been apparently this history of argument of being policed by these, these older women. So according to CNN, they said that it started because they came over like they did before, and they were telling the foster care youth in the house that the house needed to be cleaned better.
Oh, wow.
And so and this is how it escalated. But this had been done before. I mean, this happened before. I think another thing that needs to be brought out is that foster care is out. There are some nice foster care parents, but foster care is a system that no child wants to be in.
Absolutely.
It is dehumanizing, and it is very brutal. And one of the things I work with foster care youth. It is mandated that you have a psychiatrist, you have a psychologist, a therapist, because the disruption in your family that occurred, and this disruption of being removed out of your family, regardless of how bad your family was, if it was bad at all, it is psychologically damaging. So we have a whole bunch of basically people, unhealed people, you know what I mean, in rage, taking out. This is classic. This is a classic kind of recipe for destruction, right? My overarching kind of thoughts in this is that we still are not afforded the space to be human. Mm-hmm. There was never but with the cops assessment, there was never well, let me kind of suss this out and see, you know what I mean? It is total hunting season on Black people.
And that's the overarching issue.
That's why
I'm sorry, I gotta dip out, but thank y'all so much for this time, and let me talk to y'all. Appreciate it.
All right, thank you so much. All right, Dane, check you out next week.
Yeah, I just want to shout out one of my girlfriends, Jocelyn Rout. She's in Bladensburg, Maryland, and has been a foster parent as long as I've known her, and I've been knowing her it's been 10, 12 years now. The reason I want to shout her out is because there's a certain level of strength that you have to be able to do that work. And she's done it over the years and has had many foster children. And there was one foster child that she dealt with that I got very close to that actually was killed. And so the level, and she got a memorial service for this child. I mean, so much so that the social workers that were working were like, why are you going above? And she was like, because he had a life, to your point about being human, because he was a human being, because his life had value and it deserved more than what we are giving it. And so I just want to shout her out because that work is difficult. And you're, like you said, I know that there has to be a therapist, because I used to take this young man that she was working with to those sessions, right? But we have to understand that the system is so heavily scaled against us that even her getting inside the system, all of the hoops that she had to jump through in comparison to other non-Black foster parents is just for her to get inside of the system. So when people say, oh, we need more foster parents that look like us, or we need more of us getting inside the system. Well, yeah, but it takes the standard to even get inside is so high that oftentimes we never are going to be able to meet those standards or make those standards. And so I want us, again, to talk about, like you said, the holistic approach to this, how it's problematic, even when a Black foster parent is involved, right? And that level of care. There's not enough even money provided really to take care of that child like they need to be taken care of, right? The trauma around it, the fact that they're not seen as human beings, that they send you or they send those children with garbage bags. How is a child supposed to be valuable if they're carrying around their belongings in a garbage bag? Right. And so, Kaya, I think
they're treated much like prisoners. They're a number. They're in a system and they're not recognized by a name. They're recognized by a number. So I mean, there are so many factors in that. And then let me hold on for a minute. Let me turn on this light so I can have more light.
I did the same. I turned on lights. Is that better?
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The sun is starting to hide behind the clouds over here too.
So well, I was talking about the foster care youth. Yeah, they're only treated like prisoners with a number. Another thing, because I worked with foster care youth, there's so much abuse in the foster care system that goes unchecked and accounted for. We don't know exactly where any of these people that were in this situation were. And then also I have to add, I wanted to ask Dame, have you gotten into a fight when you were 15 or 16? I got into fights when I was 15 or 16 and we was wilding. You know what I'm saying? And to be enraged and to be in a space where you're trying to protect yourself, I don't hear anything else. You know what I'm saying? You're in this moment, but there are so many factors. There's so many things about the story that yet have unfolded. We still don't know all of the pieces too. So we're doing a lot of conjecture in it. But The fact of the matter is that this baby girl, be it 15 or 16, was shot down in my opinion, like it was hunting season.
But not only that, let's just deal with that. We can't even identify the girl's real age.
Yeah.
We don't know if she's 15 or if she's 16, right? Yeah. Her mother has come out and said, oh, the way you were spelling her name was incorrect, right? So just her personhood, period. We cannot verify. There are now several reports or several news stories with her name spelled different ways. We cannot identify how even not even her last name. We're not even talking about the surname. We're talking about the first name. We can't verify how the first name is supposed to really be written because there's conflicting reports about that. And we can't even verify the girl's age, which also then lets us know that the records or whatever that was kept on this young lady were not being kept well because we can't even verify if she was 15 or if she was 16. The mama or the mother of this child has come out and said, this is how you spell her name and if she was 16. Well, records are saying, well, this is how her name is spelled and she was 15. That's the proving point that she was just seen as cattle.
And the system had already failed her.
That the system had already failed her. And she called another system to try to protect her in a system that she was already in that has failed her. And then that system shot her.
Yeah, there are so many layers to this case that shows the almost, I don't know what the status is to be not human in the United States, but that is what we're leading to. And she's in some of the most vulnerable population to be in foster care, to be a ward of the state, to be a number. So we are going to talk more about this case. I rarely do follow cases like these because they're so emotional. I remember one time sitting next to a reporter who followed, I forgot, I want to say it was the Alton Sterling case. Was that the case of the brother in Louisiana? I forgot. Yes. The Alton Sterling case. And she just started bawling next to me. And she was just talking about the mental health, like the strain that it has to follow these cases and to interview the family and the suffering that you absorb. But we're going to be following this case to see what that is.
If you want to see good news, you don't see on regular TV from another perspective, something relative to your needs. And we gonna have deep subjects, and we gonna turn the lens. And there's no topic we won't skip it won't scare, so please don't miss. Weekly